Hello. So today it's about capital, and I was just thinking over the last year and a half on the projects that I've been advising or have been sitting in rooms, and what I felt kind of was missing, and then I'll kind of focus a bit more on what I felt was missing on games. So with this presentation, I am trying to be more on a personal level than representing my firm. The reason is because it's a personal memo of how I kind of felt. And it can be very contradictory, and it's actually personal understandings of whenever I see something that's missing from projects. So I have about 13 years in global games, and so my career is mainly about games, and I've done a lot of things regarding games, from shifting from featured phone to smartphone, from smartphone paid games to free-to-play games, advertisement games. So all the transition that happened from a mobile game, I have experienced personally and directly. And like bringing this experience into investing in cryptos and blockchain, and not just games, but blockchain games, but like across the board of cryptos, there's a lot of things that VCs or crypto funds do not really tell the project, because we think you should at least know that if you want us to invest, right? So like this is the ABC. This is what everyone knows. You need to have a great product. You need to have good business. It's basically, if you don't have a great product to pitch, if you don't have a great market opportunity, if your product doesn't see any market opportunity, if you don't have a great team, this is what Tama was mentioning as well, and if it's not related to any tokens or blockchain or that technology, then basically you shouldn't be sitting in a room with a crypto VC or someone like me, right? So this should be something that's already there. Then another side is the token side. So for most blockchain games, you don't have a token model. Like basically you're building off of Ethereum or EOS or the already existing mainnets that are out there and the token economies that they provide, and then you're building something based on that. But if you are planning to do any kind of ICO or an IEO or any kind of token offering, these are the things that you need to be looking into. And this needs to be ready to be explained to the investors before coming into the room with them. And I think the biggest part that people like, I'll discuss a little more about the token sales structure later, but I think a lot of people like, do not really talk about community separately, because when it comes to community, there's a community that is a community of game players for your game, but there's a community that is purely investors. So if you're not building up a community on both levels and you're thinking of doing an ICO or a token sale, basically you just want to grab money from us because you think raising with crypto is somehow more easy than raising equities. And that's the message you'll be sending to the VCs that you talk to. So from a crypto VC that has a lot of gaming experience, when I look into blockchain, there's two aspects. And one is it's the understanding of games business. So if a blockchain game company sits in the same room with me, I will probably ransack them down on how much they understand gaming. And the other side is how much they know about crypto. So from my point of view, I expect the team to know more or similar level regarding cryptos, but like on blockchain, on the gaming side of things, I expect them to know a decent amount. And when it comes to understanding games business, basically like not many people in the crypto industry understand that what's in a game is there's gameplay, there's metagame, and there's the whole game universe around it. And of course, I'm missing out on the business model of it. But like, all these things need to be balanced in a game. Like when a blockchain game company sits in my room and doesn't know, doesn't have the understanding of separating which part of the game is actually a gameplay and which part of the game is actually a meta game, or if they don't even know what the terminology of a meta game is, that's a severe problem for that team. That's what I think. And then the game universe and the business model, all these things need to balance out. And especially with blockchain games, on a personal level, I look less on the gameplay itself because at this technology level or the infrastructure level of blockchain itself, the main focus can only be the meta game of the whole game. So if a company is building for 5 years or 10 years advance, then maybe not. Maybe they can have a AAA game style, a gameplay like full-blown game. That's fine. I may not probably invest because I don't think they'll probably sustain for more than 5 to 10 years based on that, because they'll probably have to fund millions and millions of dollars just to sustain that, right? But if they're looking into a market that's approachable in the next 1 to 3 years, then most of the games will focus on the meta game. But like, how many know what a meta game is? Right? So I think if to be honest, this gameplay metagame itself, talking about this, is a 20-minute speech. And I've talked to people at King, Supercell, that have internal educations on these. So like, if you're building up a blockchain game, and if you don't know what metagame is, like, check it up. It's online. It's there are people talking about this. And then it's the cream of the cream is when this team understands all three and knows how to balance this at the same time. So how does the gameplay itself meets the metagame? How does the whole game universe contain this, and how much do the team understand on the production level of how much resource needs to go in to build a game like this, is something that I'll be looking into regarding game business and how much they understand about this. And at the end, they'll probably need to facilitate it with a lot of data analytics and data tools behind it. Because like, traditional game-wise, like, every game is based on analytics. And if you don't have that, it's like, you could probably get somewhere, build up some users and get some revenue, but you'll never be able to scale from that. And then, now, so it's interestingly, for the projects that come to me, a lot of them know a lot about the gaming side. But when it comes to the blockchain and crypto side, I find not even blockchain game companies, but a lot of the ICO companies have lacking knowledge on how these things work. So, like, nobody can explain why the token prices or the NFT prices will go up or down within their ecosystem. A lot of them cannot explain why users would buy into these NFTs. They'll say that, oh, we're going to do a pre-sale of a game, of an item before the game comes out. And when I challenge them, well, what's the use of that item if I find out that the game is actually crap when I download the game, then what's going to happen? Then am I going to sell that NFT to everyone else, right? And then if everyone knows that the game isn't really good enough, then is that NFT pre-sale providing any value to the users that have joined this game? Because it doesn't, right? So, like, engineering how the demand and supply, or knowing how the demand and supply of NFTs are gonna escalate, or the price is gonna go up, or it's gonna be steady, is something that the team should be able to explain. If they cannot, the chances of that NFT sale being successful on a pre-sale, nobody knows, but if it's gonna sustain after the game launches, probably a lot of the people will understand. And if you have a separate token model, now this is the scary part, because right now, and this is what the crypto VCs don't really explain that much, because when crypto funds invest in anything that is blockchain, they have a short-term aspect and they have a long-term aspect. And in the short-term aspect, they'll be looking into circulations of your tokens, how much supply there's going to be in the market, how much demand they're going to create based on this, what's the price structure. They'll know what the VCs have come in as private sale. They know the price of the public sale. They know what the price is going to be when it's listed. They have all these information, and based on that, when they see that there's going to be a massive pump in the short term, that's when they'll probably want to liquidate. And this is what a lot of the crypto VCs do. And it's going to be very naive if you think that these funds will not sell your tokens because, maybe they see the value in our company. Crypto VCs will probably not miss out on a liquidation window because they can always buy back in the secondary market if your product looks good. So I've done this. Oh, shoot. I think that was duplicate. So in details, the reason for this is because right now, the market cap of ICOs are based on the circulation volume of your token. If you go, the reference website for any kind of token right now is marketcap.com. If you go in there, all the market valuation is based on the circulation of the token, not the whole token that is generated. And because of that, if you can squeeze down the circulation supply in the beginning, that's going to create a kind of an illusion that this token economy's market cap is actually smaller than what everyone thinks should be. And I think that's a massive illusion that is creating FOMO and is creating FUD at the same time for a lot of ICOs. And I think this is a mechanism that even the blockchain game developers need to understand, because this is basically the whole economy you're building a game on top of. And you'll fluctuate with how the market fluctuates. And the token price is related to supply and demand more so than how good your game is. And NFTs, it can be different. You can, and this is why building communities that will back you up, buy your NFTs, hold on to it, and will build a lot of value for the game itself is important. If you're selling NFTs without a big community or a supportive community, I think it's a suicidal mission. You'll have to understand, if you're building an Ethereum game, if you're building an EOS game, please look into how that market is moving, how those token prices are moving, because it's directly related to how your game is going to change, at least the economy of it. And if you are doing private sales of tokens, you really need to be prepared on how you explain with lockup, circulations of tokens, and so forth. So when I was working in game companies, this is like a joke that we've been talking about, because Come To Us invested into game companies as well back in 2010 and 11 after IPO. And it's still true, and a lot of the gaming funds that are created by the Founders Fund or the gaming specific funds that are coming out from Scandinavia, if you talk to the guys, they say the same thing. It's like if it's a team that has built $1 billion game before, getting investments in is a joke. They can get money from anyone, anywhere. It's not difficult. But if you need money, if you need to go running around for money, you probably don't have a good game, or you have a proof of concept for the game, but you probably need to put a lot of money in it. So it's either both. It's one of the two. So we're living in a very, very polarized world, and gaming is a very, very saturated market. So if you usually the case is if you have a great game, a great team, raising funds usually is not difficult. So and it's because most of the gaming funds rely on past references, what they've done, what they've built, and this is why I think a lot of the startups or the people who are coming into games or blockchain games needs to focus on building native blockchain games or building something that is a completely new concept. If you're continuously replicating what have come before you, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to raise capital, more so moving forward. So please build something that is a native blockchain game or a native blockchain game platform. However, if you want to replicate something that's already there and you think you love that side, you love making games and you want to do that, then prove yourself. Before going around raising money, and this is going to be hard, but bootstrap, prove that you can make a blockchain game, at least one, even though it's centered around meta games, because like making AAA games usually mean a lot of money. But make that concept, prove it, however small it is, and if you can sustain that and run that and show that with data, then that raises the chance of you getting funding from funds. And focus on 0 to 1. There are so many companies that come into a talk and like say what's going to happen in 10 years. Everyone knows that, you know, something miraculous is going to happen in the next 10 years. Like in 10 years' time, God knows what's going to happen. But the scaling part is what you should provide for the investors to be creative about. When you show that you can go from nothing to one, based on that, funds will become creative if they believe that the 0 to 1 can happen. You will need a story behind how one can be infinite, but you need to let the investors talk about it first, not yourself. That's what I think. So this is like a lot of the discussion. Well, most of the information is from past discussions over the year and a half that I've been a crypto investor. And I'm like, I'll leave, if I have time, I would like to go over to questions. Yeah.
Yeah, we have time for questions.
So if you have any questions, like anything, it's fine. It's a lot of topics. Every page was probably like worth 20 minutes speech itself. Yeah. Okay, so like it's funny when I meet up with a lot of crypto investors, I sometimes hear that there's a legit team that has a lockup of 4 years, right? And this competition of lockups have been increasing from 3 months to 1 year to 2 year to 4 year. So, so it's lockups for the team, lockups for the advisors, and lockups for the investors themselves. You need to calculate that and present that to the investors, right? If you're doing an ICO. There is no magic formula, but it seems like If it's for the team, the longer the better, because basically it's like stock options, right? They'll stay in the team if the value of the tokens go up, and if the team is agreeing to a longer lockup, that means they believe in the future rather than trying to arbitrage from the tokens they get in the early stages. So that's what it translates to. From an investor, of course, everyone will want a shorter lockup period because then they can liquidate earlier. But think about, like, they're going to invest a principal, and they'll at least want the principal back, right? If it's a fair investor, they'll liquidate the principals first and leave a lot of the other remaining tokens until they can liquidate that, depending on how they communicate and see the future of the project. So that is the underlying communication with lockups. Yeah. Any other questions?
So the principal to investors, private investors look for liquidation like within a month or so of the ICO, or that's principal recovery?
Right. So for that, you can go into any large exchange, check up for any projects that's been around, right? I think this is basically the homework that a lot of the game or the blockchain projects do not do. So if there are competitor projects that are out there and listed already, or if there is a token model that you're referencing to, go into an exchange that has been there for the longest time and actually check how the charts move. Because some will even have a massive dump on the first day, right? And also, if they'll know who's dumping, right? The projects will know. But like, if there is a massive dump, that's not an individual. It's going to be a fund, right? So, and actually doing some research on that, if you have a lot of connections, is something you could also do. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Alexander from Axie. So I have a question regarding token models. Which of the games or platforms do you think have the best token model at the moment?
Gaming platform-wise?
Yeah. If there are any.
At the moment, with regarding games, I have not really seen one that seems ideal. Like, for an investor, we prefer something that definitely has a long lockup for the team that's building it, right? And a short lockup for the investors themselves. But at the same time, I have not seen that many that explains how the token model is going to change depending on, because it's related to a few things. After listing, if you have a lot of news and businesses that's coming out utilizing this model, like, an investor will see that the token prices are going to go up. They'll feel like that, and they'll keep on to the tokens, right? If they don't see much activity after listing, then they'll have this fear that it's going to drop, and they'll probably sell it, right? And it gets worse when crypto winter comes, right? So it's not about an ideal model. It's also specific to which period of time and how the whole crypto market is moving as well. It's just that I kind of wanted to explain that it's naive to think that making blockchain games is detached from how the crypto finance is moving. It's heavily related, and it's something that blockchain game companies need to understand as well. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
I was just going over your portfolio on your website. Most of your gaming investments seems to be in the infrastructure layer or
Yes.
one identity layer. Have you invested in a B2C game itself right now?
So So direct investments into blockchain games, we have not yet. We have invested in 2 blockchain platforms. One is listed, it's called Mixmarvel. And the other one is in a private sale called Supertree or Playdap. They both had blockchain games out already. They were both very clear on how the token economy would work after listing. And at the same time, I think this is another thing, because when it comes to blockchain or crypto investments, we cannot invest the whole pot, right? Because these are like, it goes up to 20 million, sometimes 10, sometimes 5. So we cannot invest everything. So we need other funds to invest with us. When I was looking into games a year ago, no one was interested in games. Like nobody was talking about games. And it's only became a trend in the last 3 to 4 or 5 months. So, and people are talking about games right now, and they're interested in games right now. So it's an environment for investing in crypto games. What I advised a lot of the game companies that I was meeting back in the days was, you should go and try raise equity rounds, because basically funds are not interested in games right now. That's a lot of the dialogue I had. It's become more serious in the last 3 to 4 months. Yeah. But also between that, there are companies and projects that have built games up. You know, they didn't wait, they just make the games, and they're making revenue, they're generating profit as well in some cases. They have heavy data based on that as well, and they're explaining that. So, you know, they've bootstrapped, and now they're in a position where they can explain that, hey, this game went out, it's on Ethereum network, you go to dApp.com or all these inside dApps. Here's the data, here's how much revenue it's generating, this is the transactions it's showing. Then it's such an easier pitch than, oh, you know, if all they've been doing is trying to raise capital to do something. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks for insight, Joony.